Okay, thank you so much, Sis Mandu, or Mama Kanya, as I call you, because you are indeed a mother figure for me. And thank you, Les, and the team at the Careers and Counseling Unit at Unisa. It's a great honor and a great pleasure again to be on the platform. I was saying to Mama Kanya that I will always come, whenever you call me, I'll always be available, because Unisa is indeed, a home for me. I did my postgraduate studies at Unisa and had the wonderful pleasure of working with Professor Kutsia on my master's dissertation, which some of the learnings I will share in the presentation today. But I just want to acknowledge all of those people that have contributed to my career and where I am. I think, Mama Kanya, I'm going to shorten my bio. I'm just going to say my name is Ronnie, and I'm a young village boy from Venda who worked very hard at school, and God blessed him so much with opportunity, and he is where he is today, full stop. I think that will be more than sufficient. But it's a great pleasure to be back on this platform once more. If there are any questions, I won't be able to see the participant screen as I'm going to be on the presenter mode. But I suppose we will be able to get the comments, questions as we go along. I've tried to use as much, diagrams as possible, just to make sure that the message is clear. And you'll see the references of where I've obtained a lot of my sources and images from at the bottom of each slide. So that's quite important for me. And as I indicated, some of the information that we're going to share today here, it's going to be coming from the work we've done with Professor Kutsi around graduate skills and attributes and their contribution to career success and employability in the workplace. And so I'm looking forward to the engagement. I'll try and keep this as short as possible so that we can have a lot more discussion and we can share information through the Q&A. All right, I think I would like to start with just a little bit of theory. I think just to acknowledge that I am an academic at some level, and that the work that the team at Unisa did for my master's actually stuck, and so they didn't waste time and money. And so it's important, I think, for us to define what career development is, because essentially our discussion here is centered around the topic or the theme of career development and career advancement and planning. And so it is a process where organizations either support employees in their professional growth, especially employees' movements to new positions, new projects within an organization. And so this could include a number of initiatives such as coaching, mentoring, skills development, networking, and career pathing. And you'll see some of the elements of this definition come to life as we discuss further. And so career development, what we're finding is that it's no longer a one-directional, top-down process that a company, performs, almost in a paternalistic fashion to a person, but it is a co-created process between the individual and the organization where we try and align those interests. Because if you can imagine, we've got in an organization a number of people from different walks of life who have studied different things from different fields. And so it's important then to make sure that whilst we try and pursue the objectives of the organization, that the individual themselves that is working in that organization is also aligned with that goal, and that their development is also aligned with the organization's goals, so that both parties get a fair amount of investment in the process and development in the process, and that not one party wins whilst the other one suffers. So that's quite a very important comment to make around career development and the role of the organization and the individual. And so both playing an active role in that sense. If we look at the characteristics of the 21st century world of work, It's predominantly centered around how employable people are. And how transferable their skills are from one setting to the next, from one role to the next, from one project to the next. If there's anything in the last 3 or 4 years that we have learned, and which was precipitated, of course, by the COVID-19 pandemic, is that a lot of companies started to retrench people. We're still suffering the effects of that economic event, and a lot of people had to be skilled and reskilled again to be relevant to the new world of work post-COVID. And so employability becomes an important concept to consider as a job seeker, as a graduate, as a person who is pursuing a degree or a field of work, because that is essentially the measure of how you are able to transfer your skills from one role to the next, from one organization to the next. Should you get retrenched or lose your employment, how confident are you that you're able to secure a different role, either in the same organization or in a different organization outside? And so that's quite important. And so, around this concept of employability, we then need to start looking at, what kind of graduate skills and attributes are employers and the job market looking for? Ms. Mandu mentioned that I sit on the Industrial and Organizational Psychology Advisory Board for Unisa. And that is important because that's where the academics are able to interact with industry to understand whether or not what the universities are teaching and churning out in terms of graduates and people that are going to the job market is indeed what the job market is looking for. And in various fields, if we are producing engineers, how do we make sure that these engineers have got the right skills, the right attributes that align with the gaps and the demand that is in the market? And we all know that, our economy has become quite a knowledge economy, as much as it's still industrialized. But most of you leaving university, most of you that are going to your first job will be going into a knowledge economy, situation. And so how do you develop and hone, your skills to plug into that knowledge economy in a way that contributes to yourself as well as to the organization that you're going into? Legislation, very, very important, because that drives a lot of the context within which organizations operate in. At the moment, I'm doing a project in Swaziland or Eswatini. I've been doing that since February, and it's been quite interesting to see just how nuanced their legislative context is in comparison to South Africa. As much as there are many similarities, but there are quite a lot of nuances that culturally are quite significant and different in how they do things. They're a much smaller economy, of course, but you can imagine most businesses in Eswatini being family, run businesses, family-owned businesses. And so within the legislation, especially labor legislation, you find a lot of references to, what applies to you if you are related to the owner of the business, as opposed to what you'll find in South Africa, where the market is quite big and we have a lot of multinationals. So that dynamic, contributing and playing an important role in how one contextualizes their business and how they employ people in Eswatini in comparison to South Africa. So legislation becomes a very important cornerstone of how we manage this relationship between employers and employees. And of course, we know it's a volatile economy that we're working in right now. Interest rates are, go up every other day. The rand dollar exchange, it's an important factor in how we conceptualize, some of the hygiene factors that undergird the employment relationships. Diseases. We now have this disease X that, the World Health Organization is talking about that has not yet been named, which could be the next pandemic. So there's lots of these things that cause volatility in the market. And of course, high unemployment in South Africa, and we'll talk about some of those stats in a little while. I'll skip through this one quite quickly. We've spoken about this. Essentially, it's just a reflection on the changing nature of careers. And so I've already mentioned that, as opposed to previously when our parents were employed in the 1950s, and the company literally would do everything like how a father would act in a family home. In today's career, in today's workplace, it's quite different. Young people, the Gen Zs expect a lot more different, things. They expect to be in charge of their careers. They expect that the company will also listen to their aspirations, their ambitions that they hope to achieve by working for a particular corporate. And so with COVID-19 as well, we see a lot of young people expecting that they won't be going to work every single day of the week, that they would have a hybrid working model. And so all of those things, defining how we conceptualize work, attendance, performance, commitment, loyalty, all of these ingredients that make up the psychological contract that you would have as an employee. And so we're seeing a lot of people now looking for flexibility in how they work and engage with employers. There's what we call the gig economy now, where younger people expect not to have full-time employment contracts, and so looking at job security in a very different way. But looking for that flexibility to be able to charge more for their specialist skill, and be in charge of their time, and almost working as independent contractors, for various clients or various employers who then pay them, according to how they've priced their skill set. And so you see that there's quite a different way to look at the nature of careers, and that careers don't, follow a vertical movement, from bottom to the top, and that a number of people will go, sideways. They'll go sometimes back in order for them to step up in their career. And of course, reskilling and upskilling, as I've spoken about, quite important post-COVID. A lot of specialists during COVID lost their jobs. Because a lot of the specialist roles that they were doing could be done either through AI or through some kind of technology platform. And so a lot of them have lost employment or their relevance, and so have to be reskilled or upskilled in order for them to be aligned with where the organizations are going. We've spoken about employability, central, I think, to our discussion today, and graduateness. And so employability, quite simply put, it's the extent to which, as an individual, you are certain that you may obtain new employment or be retained in your current employment by doing an assessment or an evaluation of your own skills, your own abilities, in relation to how you think that any company looking at your CV may respond to you. And so it's talking about how confident am I as an individual, as Ronnie, how confident am I that I'm able, when I've presented my CV and my skill set to an employer, that they will think that I'm unique enough for them to consider for a role, either to retain me in the current employment, or that if I can't be retained in my current employment, that I can get new employment. This is very, very important, because it also has it's a self-reflection that, as individuals, we have to go through in order for us to determine, what kind of value we believe we bring to the table when an employer looks at us. Some of the critical skills that employers are looking for outside of what you have learned at varsity: scholarship, problem solving, decision making, enterprising skills, analytical skills. These are very, very important. I don't even know how to stress these. In the workplace, what we're looking for today is people that are going to solve business problems that we see on a day-to-day basis, and they bring solutions to the kind of challenges that businesses go through. We've spoken about the volatility of the market. And so when the market is volatile the way it is, it means that we continuously need to be learning, continuously need to be providing solutions for challenges that arise from business. I saw a post on Twitter or on X this week, and someone was saying that one of the engineers, IT engineers for McDonald's in South Africa, who was deployed from America, indicated that in this market they had to find ways um, of essentially building mechanisms to deal with the challenge of cyber attacks, and employees bypassing certain controls that have been put in place in order for the company to deal with things like theft, the cash register and all things like that. And so you see that this engineer, when they're operating in this market, need to be aware that problem solving is a daily requirement in order for them to help the business achieve the kind of revenues, deal with the kind of losses upfront and proactively than they would if they were in a different market. Enterprising skills, there's a thing called now intrapreneurship, where organizations are starting to see that in order for us to solve at a societal level the issue of unemployment, we have to encourage our employees to start enterprising whilst they're employed. So as an example, if you work for a company and they are a distributor of a software package, and they're looking to grow into a market, and they say to you, if you help us grow a market in this way, by this size, by this percentage, we'll be able to give you, X amount percentage in this business. That already is in entrepreneurship. You're enterprising whilst you're employed, because you're using and leveraging the infrastructure that your employer has built in advancing their product, but also creating wealth for yourself. And so you can see all the other skills there that employers are looking for, ethics and responsible behavior. You'll see later on that ESG, or environment, sustainability, and governance have become quite important concepts, and people that are going into work and seeking for employment as well are starting to look at companies that are responsible citizens. If you're in the mining sector, you would know that there's quite a lot of environmental impact and damage that happens. Oil and gas and companies, there's quite a lot of damage that happens to the environment. And so the reason why we've got some of these heat waves and things that are happening in the environment is because of the kind of carbon footprint and impact we're having on the environment. And so a lot of job seekers now looking at companies that are able to show a commitment to reducing their negative impact on the economy. And of course, continuous learning, very important, and goal-directed behavior. Let's look at some stats, and we'll start with South Africa and then go out into the global arena to see how things look like in terms of jobs. This one is published by Natalie Coling, published last year, October. And so you will see that in South Africa, what we're seeing is that about 3.97 million people work in the community and social services sector. This should concern all of us, because as you can see on the graph on the right there, trade comes thereafter, finance comes after that, manufacturing, which is an industrial sector, which we would expect should be employing a lot more people and creating a lot more jobs, transport, agriculture, mining. So you can see that the industrial sectors seem to not be employing as much as what we would expect. What this statistic just tells us is that South Africa is essentially quite a socialist state. You would know that we spend trillions and trillions of rands on social grants, giving people money. And I saw the other day that they're going to be adding 20 rands on the 350 that people get for social grants. And so this is quite a concerning statistic, although it also means that, social workers, have got work to do. But ultimately, when you see a stat like this, and the high level of employment that is in this sector, it should be of concern to all of us. The labor force that's unemployed in South Africa, it's 30% of our population. Our Gini coefficient, we all know, is quite high at 63 out of 100, and just demonstrating that how unequal our society is. More men are employed in South Africa. 36.8 Black people are unemployed in this country. 60.7 unemployed youth between the ages of 15 to 24. Our average national salary on a monthly basis, this is a 2022 stat, around 26,000 rands. And we can also see that there's a high concentration of job seekers in Gauteng, around 16 million people in Gauteng, and all of us looking for employment and opportunities in the city of gold. Unfortunately, women still facing higher unemployment rates and lower paying jobs than men. The hiring outlook in South Africa, sectoral growth trends that we see there. So in business and management, medical and health, building and construction, these ones showing quite a bit of growth in the last quarter for last year. And so you'll see here that these statistics, they show that the SA job market in the last quarter last year showed some signs of recovery. There was an increase of recruitment activity, about 6% up in August 2023, and also a year-on-year increase of 3% compared to 2022. Interestingly here, what we see is that there's a bit of a stagnancy on the international job market. If you remember 2 years ago when I started doing these presentations, we had a much higher uptake of international job offers and assignments because a lot of people were considering migrating to other countries, especially Canada, Australia, and London or the UK. And so we see that that statistic has now leveled up and isn't actually growing, which is an interesting thing because it means that brain drains for some reason or other is being contained in the country. But we also see quite a number of negative reports about people that have gone seeking employment internationally and haven't really seen the greener pastures that they'd actually hoped for. We see that IT hiring in Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape have declined slightly, although IT is still one of the leading sectors that are employing people. And so the growth activity that we see are in the business and management sectors. So all of you that are studying like a BA or a B administration or a BCom business and management degree are in the right field, because those degrees are quite generic and they can be applied in a number of sectors, in a number of roles and fields. Medical and health, of course, building and construction, recovering from those previous scandals that we all know. And we spoke about the decline that we've seen in IT, admin, office support. Now, some sectoral, or let me say some macro trends in terms of the SA labor market are quite interesting. So we see that there are some, sectoral variations, and we spoke about some of them now in terms of where growth is or where the focus is in terms of recruitment activity. Again, business management, medical health, building and construction sectors, increasing in hiring activities, and growth percentages there of about 22% in management and business, 21% in building and construction, medical and health, and 6% in building and construction. IT with a slight decline, as we discussed there. The other interesting thing is that we all know that we've got energy challenges in our country and probably in the whole of SADC and the continent. And so this has given rise to what we call green energy jobs. And these have definitely increased in the last 2 to 3 years. In particular, in the last 3 years, professionals in the green energy sector increased by over 200%. In 2023, vacancies for green energy jobs reached their highest levels ever, and a majority of them falling under the engineering sector. Which of these green energy professionals or roles do we see that are in demand? Typically, these include, as you can imagine, design engineers in solar electrical engineers, technical engineers in renewable energy, and all these sectors that are trying to deal with our energy demands and our energy crisis, as well as reducing our carbon footprint, and managing the environment well. And so these roles experiencing quite high demand and reflecting the growth focus for many economies around the world. And so this is quite an interesting one, because even at a university or tertiary level, I think there's going to be a lot of work that needs to get done around supporting people that want to go into these kinds of careers, because most of these would be new or emerging careers, but nonetheless in high demand. Sales professionals in most sectors, sales professionals have become crucial for business. And as you can imagine, if you've got emerging economies like the green economy, that economy needs to be sold. Someone needs to say, be behind a telephone, be behind a marketing campaign that says, we can help you save energy, we can help you save the environment, we can help you, be off the grid. And have a continuous supply of energy, and so using solar. So some of these sales requirements coming up in the technical sales executive roles, sales representatives, external sales engineers, quite on the rise, and also linked to that green economy that we're seeing. What we also know in South Africa is that there are regional employment hubs. Gauteng still remains the largest employment hub in South Africa, as you saw in that statistic, about 16 million people in the province, and all of us seeking here opportunities for employment and growth. ICT, we've spoken about it, still in demand, although it's got a bit of a decline there. Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape, between 2021 and 2022, showing demand for IT professionals. So there is still opportunity in that sector. And so if you're in that sector, you're probably in the right field. Marketing, interesting to see that the demand for marketing professionals is also on the rise, but obviously per region there'll be variations there in terms of the demand. At the moment, Eastern Cape seeing a decline, Western Cape seeing some growth, and between 2021 and 2022, and declining since August of 2022. We've spoken about business and management, quite a high demand for that all around in all the major economic hubs. And so market-related salary offerings, what we're seeing there is that there is a bit of a rise depending on which skills are in demand, especially mechanical engineers, process engineers, draftsmen. There is an indication that these roles are demanding much higher salary offerings in the market. But the most in-demand roles, as things stand, is that the demand is high in the industrial engineering, plant engineering, electrical engineering fields. What are some of the drivers of the global labor market? Health. The last time we spoke, we did do the correlation between, a healthy workforce or a healthy population and productivity. Health is very, very important and central to productivity in any economy. Macroeconomic factors, interest rates, fuel hikes, forex exchange, geopolitics, all of these issues are macro issues that are driving a number of labor market conditions that we all need to look at. Environment we spoke about as well, which is a big driver of how we see the market respond and how the labor market then is affected as a result of that. Just a point of emphasis, globally, we still see a rise in hiring in these sectors. IT, as I mentioned, being the highest at this point. Interestingly, restaurants and hotels or hospitality, 40%. It's on recovery after COVID, and most economies that rely on hospitality, restauranting and hoteling, are on the rise, and we're seeing quite a high demand for that. Part of the work I'm doing in Eswatini is in a hotel, and you see that there's quite a high demand for accommodation as well as conferencing, and we see that the demand far exceeds what is available in the market. Banking and finance, financial services still also very high, and you see that construction also playing a critical role there. Manufacturing also there, and all these other sectors. And so there is a global increase in hiring, across a number of these sectors or industries. Interestingly, LinkedIn also did a survey to see which jobs are on the rise. And this was in 2022 and published in 2023 last year. And as you can see, again, in the top 20 there, sales and customer engagement roles. Interestingly, human resource and talent acquisition. Also on the top there, technology and IT, marketing and communications, and then you start going to partnerships, alliances, then cybersecurity, and then legal and finance towards the bottom there. So these are your top 100 fastest growing industries where jobs are. What does the typical candidate look like in the current job market? And I'm glad because this addresses the issue of females being unemployed, and I'm glad that this trend counteracts the previous one that we've seen, where males are getting or are in employment more than females. And so the average candidate is a female. At 73%, has most of these candidates have got a tertiary qualification. Most again reside in Gauteng, as we've seen, willing to relocate from all over the country to come here for the opportunity, and mostly employment equity candidates. And so if someone asks you, is employment equity working? I think there are indications from this slide that it is working. The average length of stay in a job in the current market is about 4 years and 11 months, which is good. 5 years ago, it was around 2 years. And so you're seeing that a number of people are preferring to stay longer in roles. What are some of the strategies that companies use in the private sector to acquire new talent into their businesses? In-house careers portals, so that's where you load your CV. Online job boards, LinkedIn, I think, became the fastest and the biggest growing professional network across all the board. PNet there as well, Career Junction, QS24, and many others that are online. Companies also use headhunters to find talent, especially senior executive talent or scarce and critical skills. Word of mouth through their own employees, and we'll talk about now the hidden job market in a few slides. Newspapers, not so popular anymore, and career magazines also not so popular anymore because we're doing most of our graduate fairs online. Networking events, and we'll talk about that in a short while as well. I'm almost done. The hidden job market. This is quite an interesting concept, and it is a real thing. And what this really talks about is those opportunities for employment that will never make it to any of these traditional platforms that I spoke about on this end. And so there would be no advert that gets drafted and posted somewhere in this market that is called the hidden job market. It is a word of mouth process that takes place. Hey, my employer is looking for a sales assistant with a qualification in marketing and sales, national diploma with no experience. Please send me your CV. I'll forward it to the recruiting manager or to the hiring manager. Networks. That process of word of mouth naturally would work through a contact of a contact, a friend of a friend, a colleague, an aunt, an uncle, a professor, a teacher. So networks facilitating the hidden job market. Referrals, both by internal employees of a company referring their friends, family for jobs, or that being done through headhunting agencies. And so recruiters within organizations or within companies using their own networks. As an example, I'm part of a WhatsApp group of HR directors from a number of industries and a number of companies. Every time they've got an opportunity, they'll post it in the WhatsApp group and say, guys, I'm looking for this kind of a skill. Do any of you have any people you can refer to me? And this hidden job market is there because you want to avoid having to publicize a job and getting 3,000 applicants a majority of which don't even meet the minimum requirements of the role. And so this is a way that companies also use to conserve their energy and their time and to be more efficient in getting to the right candidate, the right skill set quickly. Sometimes some jobs are not yet available. And so the company needs to find a way to map talent for a particular job. This happens mostly with senior roles. So if you'll see, and also in some of the public sector institutes or the SOEs, when someone is on their notice period, let's say it's a 3 months notice period, 90 days of notice, during that time, because they're still employed in that role, HR or the headhunter will get briefed to say, we are looking for a replacement for this role. Confidentially, please suss out the market for us and see if we can find, we can start mapping some talent for this role, so that when it becomes available, we are not found at a disadvantage and needing to spend 3 months to find a replacement when the role is vacant for some time. And also, this hidden job market most of the time will be accessed quite quickly by internal candidates of the company. Now, how do you as an outsider access the hidden job market? Please keep close all your important networks, people that you've studied with, people that were in first year with, people that were in your syndicate group, in your MBA or in your postgrad studies. In fact, most people know that an MBA program, it's more than just about what you study in class. It's about the people that you meet in class and that are part of your syndicate groups that become your employers, or that become your colleagues in future. Because again, when those people go back to work, they're going to say, hey, look, I met a brilliant lady who's skilled in this way in my MBA class. I see we've got an executive role available. And so I would suggest that you meet this person, have a coffee with them and see if they're a suitable candidate. So keep all your networks close and keep them intact. That's why, it's never a good idea to burn your bridges. If you're going to leave employment or leave an employer, make sure that you leave well and that you are able to still access that network should you need it. Subscribe to professional bodies. It often helps there because you'll meet all kinds of professionals that are either in your field or in your sector that you can always access for those hidden job market opportunities. Attend industry events where you can meet people that can connect you or plug you in. Attend conferences and trade shows, graduate fairs. Importantly, volunteer. Volunteer in your extra time on a Saturday. Volunteer. You never know who you might just meet that could facilitate you accessing your next opportunity. And finding a mentor is also quite important, because your mentor is ordinarily someone that might be more senior than you are, more experienced in your sector, and who has got a lot more networks and who might be able to connect you and plug you into your next opportunity. And so the principle there is just, be at the right place at the right time. Preparation is very important, but also being at the right place at the right time is quite important. Finally, if you get invited to any interaction, most companies at the moment will use some form of AI to do their initial screening of a candidate or of a potential employee. They'll use some kind of online platform, MS Teams, Zoom, Google Meet. And so whatever interaction that you are most likely going to have with a potential employer, please make sure that you treat it with the utmost respect, and that you are in an area that is professional, that you're in an area that has got good connectivity. Nothing worse than trying to have a conversation with a candidate and they are in a taxi rank, or they just were not, prepared to have a conversation with you. So make sure that whatever interaction you have on any digital or online platform with a potential employer is done professionally, is done in a way that puts the best impression of yourself to the potential employer in a way that is going to differentiate you as a candidate, and prepare the same way that you would prepare for that interaction that you would if you were going to meet them in person at their office. I think that's about it for now. Leza and Ms. Makanya, I will take any questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. I'm going to ask those of you who are attending, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make or ask Ronnie, you're welcome to raise your hand. So on MS Teams, you could just click on that raise button to raise your hand. We will then open the microphones for those who would want to ask their questions. So I'll give you a moment to do that. While we're waiting for questions, Ronnie, as you were talking about, accessing or tapping into this hidden job market, I was thinking about the context of in product design or in marketing, they always talk about you buy from people that you know, you like, and you trust. So I just wanted to share that perhaps a question could be is how can you help others to know you, to like you, and to trust you? And those are then some of the tips that you shared in your last slide. Okay, we've got a hand here. Kaya Tlile. So let me just allow your microphone. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Kaya Tlile.
Sorry.
You can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. First of all, I'd like to greet everyone who's involved in this interview. Sorry, in this meeting. And thank you for the presentation that you gave us. Also, like I have a question here, which like okay, like okay, like, so like I'm in a field which is called the BA in Policy Studies, and I would like to know which okay, like which skills should I look out for, or which job opportunities should I look out for? Hello?
Thank you, Kahlile. Ronnie, perhaps just talking on your behalf, maybe we won't be able to assist you with very specific, but if we think now about the presentation, Ronnie, if you can share any insights, there may also be other students from other fields of study, where do you start with finding out about these opportunities?
Yes, thank you, Leza. Yeah, I struggled to hear Kayelihle there. But I think just as a general observation, I would say that if you look at the presentation, there are a number of sectors that are quite active in terms of recruitment at the moment. But also, I think what we began with at the beginning of the presentation was around a reflection, in yourself to say, what kind of graduate attributes or skills do I bring to the table that make me more employable than the next candidate? Because if you look at the job market at the moment, as much as we look at the specifics of what you've studied and what you know and what you've learned, it doesn't necessarily translate directly into a job that you are going to get in the market. And so this self-assessment and evaluation that you do on yourself, and that's why we spend some time, in the slides talking about what are some of the skills and attributes that, can elevate your profile, your CV, your resume, so that a recruiter, as much as they can see you've studied, let's say, international relations and economics, or something like that. That when they look at your the rest of what your toolbox looks like, they can be able to immediately say, okay, this person has got a skill like this. We can use there. We can use here. We can use here as well. What I can also say is that the era of specialists has gone very, very quickly. And so I think I would advise, anyone that's on this call to always think about what is the demand in the job market? What are the skills that are in demand in the job market? How can I use my qualification as a stepping stone, as a ladder to climb, to reach, my desired outcome? I've seen, when I was doing graduate programs previously, that as much as you would do, a graduate program that focuses on a number of fields, you'd find that graduates would struggle to rotate in different departments within a company because they're fixated on, I'm the corporate finance guy, and so I don't have any business, in operations or in retail or in marketing. Whereas, the rotation is actually there to bolster your own, competencies. And so think about yourself as a toolbox, or as a technician with a toolbox. What do you have in your toolbox, in your toolkit, that can be plugged in any organization, and you'll be able to add value from the first day? Because what university does for you, it gives you a framework, an infrastructure that you can use to launch yourself from. But I think we need to learn to move out of this fixation of, I studied, in this field and I want to work in this field. That's also good. But if there's anything that, COVID has taught us, is that we have to be adaptable because the job market is volatile. What is relevant today could be irrelevant in three weeks' time.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. We've got Tabang. You are welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tabang Antoni Mofoka, doing higher certificate in law. I've got only one module left. So I've trained to be a security officer. So there are a lot of job opportunities there in security. So I would like to know, how can I use the skills that I've got? Because we do believe that security and law fall under one faculty. So now I've got those skills and want to utilize them there in the security industry, but in a higher position than to be a security officer. So I don't know if Mr. Ronnie or Dr. Ronnie will be able to help me in this regard. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Tabang. Ronnie?
Yes, thank you, Tabang. That's I'm Mr. Ronnie, by the way. I don't want problems. It's quite interesting that you have found a way to link what you studied, which was a certificate or higher certificate in law, with the opportunity you were able to get in the job market, which is being a security officer. And I think maybe there are one or two things that one could think about in relation to your question, because the infrastructure that your certificate gives you an ability, to progress in any sort of a security, legal, even compliance type of role. And so I'm not sure what kind of a security officer you're doing. So if you are working for a company, a security company, there are a number of ways that you can, start to upskill yourself, either to become a supervisor, become a manager, an operations manager, and you can see that, as you're doing all of those interventions, that your horizons are broadening, and eventually you're going to be able to either, become more enterprising, run your own outfit one day, or move into senior management within the organization that you work for. But I'm very happy that you were able to create that link of what you studied with the opportunity that you found in the job market.
Thank you, Ronnie. Just to add on that, maybe coming back to some of your slides, is that I think it would be important, in general, we're talking, the question is about, you start at a specific point, but how do you now transition to other places or positions that you want to go? So again, the issue of, for example, networking and doing a lot of research about what is relevant in your industry. What are some of the even interesting things that people are doing who've got similar background than yours? So having conversations with other people in the environment, in your current company, but also beyond your company, I think would also be very valuable for you to then start planning on these are the skills that seem to be quite important, and then to come up with plans about, as I'm working as a security officer or then moving on from that, how can I utilize this particular position or experience to develop the skills that I need? Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Leza. So I wanted to give you one other example. I think there are two hands that I saw, but there's one other example I wanted to give you of my project in Swaziland. There's a young man who we employed as a gardener. In fact, I found him employed there already in the hotel. And the way he was so charismatic and the way that he interacted, as he was doing the garden, interacted with our guests. Some of them got talking to him, and they were quite interested in how this very bright young man, is working the garden with such a good aura and a good energy about him. And in the discussions, I happened to overhear one of them talking about the fact that he's got an IT degree, and that he had been struggling to find employment in that IT environment. Well, Eswatini is a small country. And so he decided, I'm going to take any job that I get. And so he was employed in the garden. And eventually, he got to speak to our IT director in the hotel. And he looked at his CV, interviewed him, and also got to know that, he actually understands the hospitality industry quite well, and he engages very well with our customers. And now that young man is an IT technician in the hotel. And so he's used the opportunity he's found in the market and used his charisma, his personality, to give him access to a better opportunity that aligns with what he studied. And if this, is anything to go by, I think he's probably going to end up, probably the GM for the hotel. And it's just because of his attitude and the way that he used what he had to give him access. And that's what we need to be able to do.
Thank you, Ronnie. We are going a few minutes over our session, but I think it's important. There are two hands up, so let's hear those questions. Then we could end off the session. So, sorry, I don't know your first name, but the surname is Ngongo. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Okay, while we're waiting for him or her, let's ask Njabulo. Your hand is also up. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emmanuel Ngongo, and I actually hold a degree in IT. So currently, I've been very interested into data engineering, and I actually took a course, an IBM course, to get a certificate. But I have a problem. Like, I feel like I'll learn more faster if I do have a mentor. So my question is, can you give me like any tip that's gonna help me to find a mentor that's gonna help me to get relevant skills into my field?
Thank you. Ronnie, do you have any tips for people who are wanting, how do you negotiate for a mentor?
Yeah, so the issue of finding a mentor, it's quite a personal one. And I think it's also driven by your own personal goals and objectives. And your mentor also, isn't going to do the work for you. So by the time you approach someone to be a mentor, you need to know who they are, what kind of value that mentor can add, in your career journey, what specifics you would want them to help you with. So every time you have an interaction with your mentor, you need to drive the discussion. You don't arrive, to a mentorship meeting and you expect your mentor to whip up some magic. So there's quite a lot of research you need to do in finding a mentor. Sometimes the mentor you're looking for might not even be in the IT sector or the space that you've studied for. It might be someone that helps you get to an aspiration that you have in a different sector or in a different space. And so usually because you also don't want to appear as an unprepared protege. You want your mentor to also take pride in the fact that they're mentoring you. And so when you get there and you have got a clear objective, you've got a clear vision of how you want them to assist you, you get a lot more from value from that relationship. And so I think look at some of those things, but start with yourself. Okay, why do I think I need a mentor? What would I want that person to do for me? What preparation have I made myself to ready myself for that kind of assistance? And am I specific in what I'm looking for in this person, so that every time I have an interaction with them, they know exactly what we are driving towards. And remember, mostly people that are going to be your mentors are quite busy. They might have other people that they're mentoring as well, or they might just have a very busy traveling schedule. And so if they feel like you are not taking the mentorship relationship seriously and that you're prepared for every interaction, they might just drop you, or you might just feel like the mentorship process is not giving the desired results. But the result you want needs to be coming from you.
Thank you, Ronnie. So we've got two more questions. Njabulo, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question. While we're waiting for Njabulo, Nomonde. Nomonde, your hand is also up. You're welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Nomonde.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Nomonde Nombeo on the speaker, and I am pursuing my academical path in public relations. So my chat here is I've been having like quite a few concerns, most especially looking at the fact that the course I am pursuing, public relations, it requires one to be more of an extroverted person, be able to build contacts, be able to engage with like different people, so that that also gets to work on your advantage, right? So I haven't really been able to get myself into spaces where I am able to like meet different people, engage with them, have public relations related chats, so that I can also be able to build a long-term and beneficial contacts with them. And also looking at the fact that I'm also like only left with one module until I am ready for a working space. I'm also concerned over the fact that how do I go about navigating into my career field and getting myself into a professional working space before employment, more like in terms of volunteerism and shadowing. And with myself engaging on that, is it going to be of help in creating like a good profile for myself And how do I ensure that I become a candidate that stands out the most? How do I avail myself and the PR skills that I am going to be offering to whichever PR firm I might have approached at that time? And also after like graduation, do I go for big PR firms, or do I go for small, or do I vouch for small PR organizations? And then from then I'll get to use them as my stepping stone as I grow into the field.
Thank you, Nomonde. Ronnie, do you have any ideas about Nomonde's question?
I can try. She asked so many questions. But I think the gist of it is what I picked up was that Nomonde is saying that she's an introvert. And by the way, Nomonde, you're very well spoken, which works very well for you in PR. But I think being an introvert is never a stumbling block to anyone accessing any career opportunity. Personally, I'm also an introvert. I prefer to be at home and to conserve my energy. But you'll be surprised at just how much I do that is actually in the public domain that is absolutely contrary to what I prefer. And so I think the one thing that you must also remember is that there are special gifts that introverts have that extroverts don't have. And one of them is that we're able to read the room and have the right response and approach to it. And so in PR, that is all the value you're going to be able to add to any organization, whether it's small, it's big, or you're volunteering. The most important thing to be aware of is and I'm glad you've got an awareness of I'm an introvert, and so I need to be able to navigate my career, take into account the kind of person that I am. And that's important. For me, starting a career in HR as an introvert was very difficult because, HR people are known to be people's people and that kind of a thing. It took, an assessment for me to have that awareness and to develop techniques to help me preserve and conserve my energy. So I'm able to do a presentation now to an audience like this with the right level of energy and hopefully, deliver the message, the way that it should come across. Not because I'm an extrovert, but because I've learned the techniques and the skills to hone my energy for a particular task. All of us at work every day, we are acting. We get into character. So if you need to do some personal, declarations in the morning, or psych yourself up or prepare yourself mentally for a particular task, do that, and you'll find that over time it becomes second nature, and you're able to tap in and out of character the way that you need to, and still conserve your energy. But I think in terms of, how should you approach your career when you graduate, and, whether small or large firms, it goes back to the same, issue that I was responding to with, I think it was with Tabang, that, depending on what your career goals are, I think find any opportunity. For me, the most important thing is get your foot in the door and be in employment. I think we should never be too prescriptive about, and I'm not saying don't have high expectations for yourselves. No, all I'm saying is that the job market is so constricted at the moment that we don't have the luxury of saying, I prefer to be at Joe Public, or I prefer to be at a great PR firm. Whatever opportunity you get, I think get in there, get your foot in the door. It's easier for you to find other opportunities when you are in employment. But we should never turn away work because it is not, ticking all the boxes that we thought, we would tick when we get into work. I think really the job market, guys, is very, very, very constricted. What you find, get in there and do the best that you know how to do, and you will see that you'll start to grow and develop in that space.
Thank you, Ronnie. Okay, we're running way over time now, but I don't want to discourage people from attending future sessions. So I think I would want to really wrap up around about 20 past 1 at the latest. But let's give Thokozisi, and Tabang also has another question that he wants to ask. Thokozisi, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Okay, maybe something happened and they can't talk to us now. Tabang, do you have a last question for us?
Oh, yes, I do have a question for you. My question is, I heard that Mr. Mulaudzi has got customer relation skills, you see. So now I want to know where and how did he get those customer skills? So let me say liaising with customers. Yes, I would like to put it in that way, like the sources, because I'm a lifelong learner and I'm always willing to learn because that's what they need in the employment field. So I don't know if you can assist me with the sources to deal with customers. I thank you.
Thank you, Tabang. Ronnie, any hints or tips for maybe in general students who would want to develop, for example, these customer relations skills?
Yes, I can attempt, Lisa. So I think I'll just do a quick reflection on my first job. My first job, I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers as a consultant, and so I was client facing. That's the first job that I had where I learned customer relations. I had two sets of customers, which were my external clients, and mostly it was public sector, so government departments and some few banks and insurance companies. But also I had internal customers who were, at that time, all the managers that were leading the lines of services within PwC. And so both, served as my points of customer interaction, because on the one side, the external client will brief me and say, this is the project we want you guys to do for us. Please do an organization review and give us a report. And within this timeline, within this budget. So you work according to that to make sure your customer is covered in terms of their requirements for the project. But in-house, I think I found that those in-house customers were the most important in helping me grow my career. In-house, we had about 5 or so managers, and us consultants would be in a pool. And so managers at any point in time could pick any one of us to help them with anything on their projects. And so I became that guy that would do, client briefing packs. And by do them, I mean, print them. So they will send me emails with documents. Please print this customer bundle for us. We're going to do a presentation. The first slides should be the presentation. The second one should be our value proposition, all of that thing. I think I must have printed and bound thousands and thousands of customer packs because at some point I even had cuts, paper cuts on my fingers. That's how much printing I did. But do you know that printing those bundles on time, accurately, all the time, made me such an invaluable resource for the managers that, I was getting projects, left, right, and center. Every manager wanted the guy that does the customer bundles and the presentation packs so well. And so that is also how you can build, your customer base. If you're employed anywhere, anyone that you work with in your organization is your customer, and treat them as such, and you'll see that you'll be able to build quite a strong network, but you'll be able to also access other opportunities and grow within the organization.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Thank you for everyone who asked their questions. I just also want to thank a comment that Celebration Manana made on the chat. They said that volunteering helps a lot with experience and other factors. So any opportunities you get, use it wisely. So I think that's a good note for us to end this presentation on. I'm just going to share a few announcements before we end off the session and get my colleague to thank our speaker for us. So also just sharing this publication with you. It's called Grad Next. There's a link for you to download this book, also a QR code. So this book is especially helpful for students if you are thinking about making the transition either of not being employed at the moment or being employed. There's a lot of information in this book about personal branding, preparing for interviews, job searching, writing CVs and cover letters, networking, but also then personal finance issues. The book is available free of charge, so please go and download the book. It will give you a lot of tips, how to take this journey further. Then Mrs. Makanya also shared in the chat that you are welcome to contact us at any time to get support. So I've put our email address down there. You could also make an online appointment with one of us to have a discussion about your unique situation. We have counsellors at the regional offices where you could also drop in or make an appointment to go and see one of them. A number of resources available on our website at unisa.ac.za/counselling. And then on our YouTube channel, we publish a number of videos of presentations such as the one that you've been attending this afternoon. So please also go and check out the recordings of sessions that we had previously. Then for future career events on the My Unisa events calendar, please, as you are visiting My Unisa, go and check out the event calendar for more events such as these. And you are welcome to contact either myself or Mrs. Mandu Makanya if you have any questions or you would just want to connect with one of us. And that is basically it from my side. So I'm just going to ask Becky if you could just end off the session for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for this opportunity to give a vote of thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by thanking our guest speaker, Mr. Mulaudzi, for always making time to contribute to this event. As he indicated in his opening remarks that Unisa is his second home. We are so grateful, sir, for your contribution, for exceptional contribution, your passion for sharing knowledge and empowering our students so that they are not only academically ready, but they also possess skills needed to succeed in the job market. I have no doubt that this information you have shared today made a significant impact in helping our students in their journey of job hunting. Once again, we are truly thankful for your valuable contribution. I would also like to thank the organizers of this event, Ms. Lisa Dazel and Mama Kanya, for making everything possible. Thank you so much, colleagues. Finally, I thank students for attending this event. Your attendance motivates us to organize more events of this nature, where we invite knowledgeable speakers like Mr. Mulaudzi. For future events, as Lisa indicated, keep on checking on My Unisa for more details. I end by thanking everyone who participated and made this event a success. Thank you. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Becky. From my side, also thank you to everyone who made the time to attend. We're doing things a bit differently this year, and I'm glad that we could also enable the microphones for the live Q&A. So we hope to see you at future sessions or in our inbox. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.